shiznit, shooting the shiznit. Best little wrestling podcast in the business. Your host BT and all his guests. You'll never know who he'll have next. Shooting the shiznit, shooting the shiznit. Best little wrestling podcast in the business. Shooting the shiznit.
All right, we're live from 304 Studios in Jonesboro, Arkansas. This is an STSPOD.club production. Remember, all episodes Memphis in May, and we have sitting over, well, where the hell are you? You're there. It's Brother Bruce. How are you, Brother Bruce?
I'm doing good, BT. I appreciate you having me on here.
Oh, I'm excited about having you. Shooting the Shiznit, this is the flagship show. We do a lot of them in Memphis for the Memphis in May. I'm sorry, I got to say Memphis in May, so we don't get anything confused about what's going down in Memphis. But what I do is I bring somebody on that I've known forever, and we just shoot the shit, or somebody I don't know at all. This is the first time we talked a little bit before we started the stream there. First time me and you have talked to face, right?
Right. I've watched all of your STS pods. I love them. They're informative and really have the fingers on the pulse of what's going on in Memphis right now.
I love the idea of being in Memphis and being able to see some of you guys go from A to B to Z or whatever you end up doing. I've always been a Memphis wrestling fan, and I was thinking about this last night. This promotion is the only promotion that's been in Memphis that said, hey, I'm going to take advantage, and I'm saying that in a good way. I'm going to take advantage of BT and have him provide content for us, because I don't know if all the other promotions, I was the kayfabe sheet guy, I was the smart fan, I don't know what. I had a bad name and they wouldn't use me, but I'm able to watch these guys. You and Brett Michaels and K Toomer, guys like that. What y'all did was there was, Power Pro, there was Memphis Wrestling, and then it just stopped on television. There was no, right. So y'all was in this window that y'all were all wrestling, all being trained, all working in the area, but never getting TV.
Right.
And all of a sudden, yeah. So before we get started about that, let's talk about you growing up and being a wrestling fan. Give me a little bit of history about you growing up. What area? You're close to Jonesboro, Arkansas, aren't you?
Right. So I was born in 1983. Not gonna say my age for the math guys out there. They can figure that up.
The sad thing is I was a sophomore in high school then, so I just let you know we're a little different age group there. So go ahead.
It surprises a lot of the younger guys when they find out how old I am. So growing up in the 80s, like all the wrestling I grew up in the Mid-South. I did a short stint where I lived in Anchorage, Alaska. Not much wrestling up there. But then I come back, I move. I actually lived in Memphis for several years, and then I moved back to Arkansas. Growing up, just remembering those moments, watching pay-per-views and watching wrestling, on Monday night with my dad and with my grandpa. And we even, I'd get up Saturday morning and before or after cartoons, I would watch Channel 5 and getting to see all those guys. And back when I was growing up, Ozark Mountain Wrestling was in Jonesboro at the Armory. It was awesome, and I actually got to go to a couple of those tapings there.
Man, that is really crazy. I was at 98% of those tapings.
Wow.
At the Jonesboro, what was that? It went American Legion. It was on base, not on base, but on campus. The Armory. Yeah, the Armory on campus there.
Right.
I actually worked. as a manager there for Rampage Championship Wrestling. I don't know if you remember Rampage.
I do. Wow. Oh my
one
gosh.
of the worst TV shows ever.
I was probably, the weird thing about it is, like, if we went back and watched some of that old film, you would probably see me in the crowd.
I got to do that because I had recently told somebody. I told my mom. I said, "Mom, they've got the Ozark Mountain," because I took her. I took my first wife, and you could see my first wife, me, one of my friends, my oldest daughter, and my mom there watching Ozark Mountain Wrestling. I'm gonna have to go back and find a little Bruce. You was young.
I had a lot more hair back then. I had a big curly bunch of hair. Obviously a lot smaller back then, but oh wow, that's awesome. The microphone cut out.
All right, am I with you now?
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, this is the Bert Prentice book, and Bert actually, I'm saying this, I'm putting myself over. He mentions my name in Ozark Mountain Wrestling, that I came to the shows in Jonesboro, and that I was the kayfabe guy. So it's kind of interesting. It's funny, but that is really interesting. So did you?
Do what? I'm sorry.
I loved Ozark Mountain Wrestling.
Oh, dude, I absolutely loved it. Colorado Kid. There was a guy that both of us probably know. About 12 years ago, took me under his wing and polished me up. Dirty Little Dave.
Oh yeah, I know Dirty Little Dave. Works all in this area. Yep.
He opened up the business to me and just introduced me to everything and etiquette and just psychology. Up to that point, I was a basic bumper. You know what I'm saying? I could do the moves, didn't know why I was doing them. Getting with him and then getting with Sarge O'Reilly and a couple other guys really gave me that opportunity. But yeah, back in Ozark Mountain, it was just so cool. The atmosphere and the ring and the whole setup to me was wrestling. And
I loved it. Bert was he was carny as hell. Let me just say
he was, but super knowledgeable, and man, he could bring in the fans.
He did. He had a show at Convocation Center here in Jonesboro. Drew a big crowd. I was there.
Bro, at that point, it was like it was almost unheard of for a smaller promotion other than the WWE at the time WWF to put on a show like that.
Yeah, and no one ever thought that would. Yeah, and Foley came in. There was Tommy Rich, Buddy Landell. There was all kinds of people that came through here. Rich. Loved it. Yeah. All right. Growing up, you said on Monday night. So you were watching Raw and WCW, or was you just a Raw guy?
I was just a Raw guy. Now, the WCW, obviously it gave us a different flavor of the same ice cream, so to speak. And then once the promotion started, guys started going to the other promotion, then you got to kind of see a different side of them. It was almost like I probably about 10 years ago, I caught a lot of the film from Hogan in Japan, and he was a menace in Japan. Just nut. Just an absolute beast. But then when he come over to to America, it was you didn't see a lot of that stuff.
And I actually was getting tapes. We talk about it every once in a while. Like, you can watch New Japan, right now if you want to, a couple of hours or while it's airing. But I would get tapes. It would take me 6 weeks to get a show from, it'd be 4 shows of All Japan, 4 shows of New Japan. But yeah, that was when when Hulk was actually in Japan. Yeah, that was one of those things that people would put up on best of tapes, because you want to see that, and you want to see
Now,
Tiger Mask and Dynamite Kid. That was the stuff
yeah.
that went on those Jap tapes.
So
yeah.
I missed a lot of the. I was younger back in the
Right.
in the early '90s and mid '90s. I was a bit younger, but the tape trade. I love, like, once I got into the business, like getting with Dave and getting with a lot of the older guys. Like, they had a lot of those old tapes. Grainy, barely being able to watch.
Third
tapes
generation, yeah. Fourth
yeah.
generation.
And I got to see guys. That I looked up to, and I'd say, watched regularly, guys that, I wish to share the locker room with. I got to see them in a different light because they weren't at a big production show. I remember this was while I was in, when I first got in and started watching. It was a match from like 80, 81 or 82. And it was, Hacksaw Jim Duggan was, in a show, and Dave was taping, and it was like, oh my gosh, that's crazy. The Dirty Little Gang, took his 2x4 and put it in a wood chipper.
I love that. I never saw that. That was a hell of an idea. Yeah, I love that.
And it was like, talking to Dave about that and just hearing how it was, and just the consummate professional that Duggan is.
By the way, that's funny that you said Duggan, because on Mid-South Wrestling, if you go back and listen to Bill Watts, he calls him Duggan every time he says his name.
I didn't even.
Yes, he says Jim Duggan. You're like, wait,
Jim Duggan.
Bill Watts of all people. Yeah.
Oh man, I don't even know where that came from.
But when you were growing up and you was watching wrestling, and I always ask people this, when did you realize that it was a work, or, and I know it takes a while to understand the business while you're in the business. I remember telling people, we went to an ECW tryout like 2 days before ECW. I shut ECW down, by the way, Bruce. I don't know if you know that, but 2 days before it shut down, I had a tag team that got a tryout, 2 tag teams. And the guy said it was Nova. He told us, look, it takes about 5 years before you start understanding the psychology and the who takes the heat, when to get the hot tag, and all that kind of stuff. When did you start first? Was you smartened up? Was it just the aha moment, or did you kind of know it wasn't on the up and up when you first started watching it?
So, like I said, I've always been a wrestling fan, from some of my earliest memories. But so I graduate high school and I joined the Marine Corps. I go to California, and I'm out in San Diego training, and then I get stationed in 29 Palms. And I come home one afternoon from work, and I just turn the TV on, and wrestling's on, and it's almost like one of those things where it unlocks a hidden memory. And I sit down, and I usually just flip through the channels until I found something interesting. So I was stuck on that Monday Night Raw, and I just sat there, and I'm like, man, I used to love this stuff.
Right.
And then I can't even remember who was in the ring. I don't know if I want to remember. I won't put a name on it. I just remember one of the weakest, like, punches, and the guy, and I remember seeing it. The guy tried to sell it before the punch even happened. It looked like he was afraid to get hit. And, like that flinch, but not supposed to flinch kind of thing that happens sometimes.
Right.
And I'm just like, oh my gosh, what is going on? And this was 2003. It had to have been 2003 because I got deployed to Iraq in 2004.
Wow.
No, this was actually 2002 because I actually got deployed to Iraq in 2003, and then we went back in 2004. So yeah, that's wild. But yeah, I just remember sitting there thinking like, man, this stuff looked so real when
you was growing up. You know,
I was
my experience was
everybody looked larger than life. The
yeah.
good guys were super good. The bad guys were just the evilest, thing in the world. And you just wanted to see the good guy win. And every time they clobbered him, you just knew it was real. And I just remember seeing this thing. And like I said, I was in the Marine Corps, and I just remember thinking like, man, that if I was standing there and some guy was hitting me like that, like I'd probably be busted open. I'd probably have a black eye, and my head would start to swell. Like, what's going on? And then I just kind of turned the channel. I was like, oh, I guess that wasn't what I thought it was. And, I just kind of let it go. Fast forward to 2009. I got out of the Marine Corps in 2007, so I spent 6 years in there. I served honorably, EAS after 6 years. Then I was contacting a buddy of mine, and he was like, "Hey man, we're training." And, I know this is a, kind of a forbidden word for us in the business, but he said, "Hey man, we're training to wrestle." And I was like, "You mean like that fake stuff on TV?"
Yeah.
And he was like, "First off, don't call it that.
Don't ever say that.
Don't ever say that word. The F word is no longer in your vocabulary." And I'm like, okay, I'll give it a shot. And the second we started training, I instantaneously fell in love with it. It reminded me a lot of doing training in the military. So I picked up fairly quick. It's no secret now. I have an ADHD podcast. I've had ADHD my entire life. So I really hyper focus on different aspects of the ring. So like the selling and the moves and stuff, the techniques for the what we do, all kind of just clicked. And I mean, I may have to see something or do something 100 times, but I'll get it. And then it'll be, it'll be locked in. But I think that's when it was. Like, so I was in 2002. 2002, I was 19 years old, almost 20.
So did you jump on the internet and get all, because at the time you could get all kinds of, but see,
back in 2002, it was relatively, the internet was still relatively new. But no, I didn't really think about it. I just it was one of those things where I opened a drawer, I saw a picture, I kind of reminisced, and then I closed the drawer again because, I was in the Marine Corps. So I just got off work, and I finally just turned the TV off and kind of went to go grab something to drink and laid down. To get ready.
See, I was getting kayfabe sheets. So they were getting mailed to me. I was reading them. I guess 86, 87, 88 is when I started really getting into the sheets and doing my own little fanzine and everything. But I thought the coolest thing was when I was growing up, I guess, was the real names. Like, we just wanted to know everybody's real name.
Right.
And then when the internet exploded, you could go to sites, and now it's a total different business it's all about, it's all about technology. Technology changes everything. It's changed the rest of the business. Who knows what, blah, blah, blah. But I think it's fun. It's always fun. My experience was my very first live show, my very first real live show. I just remember I was like 6, but when I was a kid, I was sitting front row right at a spot show in Blytheville, Arkansas, Memphis Wrestling Spot Show. And from that point on, because I was so close, I knew there was something not on the up and up, but didn't know what, had no idea. Even the kids at school, when they'd say all that. But wrestling was so popular at my high school that fake word never came out. We didn't do that.
Right.
We want to grow up to be Jerry Lawler, Bill Dundee, whatever. And we didn't say that word a lot, but there was people that would tell you, that's fake. And we even get that now. My partner Lance Levine does a podcast with me. I remember him saying, somebody said to him, he told him he did a wrestling podcast. He goes, and they had to pull me to the side and go, that's not real. And he was just like, we hate that because I know what your body goes through. I got bad knees,
Right.
and I only did it for 5 years. I was a manager for 5 years, and I got the knees to prove it, kind of thing. So,
Right.
so you get into business, and you're just wrestling what in the small promotions in Hoxie and Jonesboro and in that area.
Yeah. That's really like the places I cut my teeth. Like the first couple of years, I wrestled. I wrestled in Hoxie. My first match was for MACW for Craig Stone. And then at that time, he was only running once a month, sometimes twice a month. And I was looking for something more. Of course, once I got trained and once I got basically trained, I was, still being green. I wanted more. I wanted every weekend. I wanted twice on Sunday. I wanted to soak up as much ring time as I could. So we were looking for a show that worked every single Saturday, and we just happened on a show in Hoxie. It was local. It was close to us, and we started wrestling there. And we wrestled there for almost, probably a year. Well, not a whole year. Probably like 10 months before Dirty Little Dave just happened to show up. And, it was one of those things where, like, me and my tag partner at the time, like, we were standing over in the corner. Of course, we're green, so we're standing up getting dressed. And he leans over to me and says, what the heck is Dirty Little Dave doing here? And I look over, and my first thing was, dude, that's not Dirty Little Dave. Dirty Little Dave wouldn't be here. And he was like, no, dude, that's Dirty Little Dave. He's going to know we're fake. He's going to know we don't really know what we're doing. And for 3 hours of that show, Dave sat against the wall with his arms crossed, didn't say one word to anybody, just watched. And when I tell you that was one of the most stressful points of my life, that's 100% facts. I didn't know what he was going to say. I didn't know if he was going to tell me to quit, if he was going to tell me that, I needed to stop wrestling and get more training.
And pack up your shit and go home.
Right. So, Dave stuck around after the show, and he gave everybody an opportunity to shake his hand and talk to him. And I remember me and my tag partner at the time coming up to him and, asking him what he thought of our match, if he got a chance to watch it. And he was like, well, I can tell y'all guys are going to be wrestlers one day.
Oh, wow. That made you feel good.
It really did. I was like, oh my gosh, no, you didn't just say that. Like, there was a part of me being a 26-year-old, 27-year-old guy, cocky, just got out of the Marine Corps, like, oh no, dude, I'm a wrestler now. But there was no damn way I was a wrestler back then.
There is a point to where there's no stopping when it comes to learning this business. You have to continue. I remember being in the business for a long time, and this was probably the last 7 or 8 years, and reading an excerpt from Tanahashi from New Japan, his book, and he was talking about psychology, and he was talking about, and I think I messaged you some of this. We were talking about it. It's not only, he said in his book, it's not only the moves, but it's what you do in between the moves.
Yes.
And I was like, all the psychology that I've learned, all the blah blah blah, and I was like, that was one of those things where I just ding, and I went back and started watching matches that I'd watched forever just to see what some of the guys were doing in between the moves, kind of thing, and learning new stuff like that. But but there is a part to where, like, I remember working on shows where I felt like my four guys and me knew everything and everyone else didn't. Yeah, I mean, really, but sometimes it was true.
Yeah,
Sometimes it wasn't true. So
it's a trap that I've fell into several times in different places. Not necessarily a bad thing. You just know more.
yeah.
You just been a few more places. You've done a few more things. But then you got a locker room of guys that, they're older and been in the business longer. So you kind of just keep your mouth shut and let it go. And you learn from those.
I got a question about that. So we're gonna take a quick commercial break. When we come back, we're going to talk about Brother Bruce, but you debuted a couple other gimmicks there before we was Brother Bruce. And then We'll talk about Memphis Wrestling. All episodes Memphis in May. Back from commercial in just a moment. All right, back from commercial. We're with Brother Bruce. Bruce, how did you get into Memphis Wrestling? Who contacted you? What was your end? You started in 2002 as you had a brother tag team that you came in, and you was his brother. You was just Bruce, and you was tag teaming with someone. But how did you? What was your connection? Because everybody has a connection to get into Memphis Wrestling.
Well, I had met Dustin several years before that at a couple of shows. There was a show that we worked in Jonesboro it was MACW and Global Force Wrestling. Jeff Jarrett and Craig Stone had joined forces to do a Legends Memphis show, and so I and even before that I had met Dustin, on several different travels, into Tennessee with Dirty Little Dave. And it just kind of, he was at a show that I was at, and I was doing a different gimmick, and he had asked me what the character was. And I told him, and he said, look, I'm very interested. Here's my number. I'll get yours. We'll talk later. And then later kind of just, for lack of a better word, later just kind of wasn't able to happen anytime in the foreseeable future. And then out of the blue one day, I get a phone call, and he says, hey, I need you to come in. I've got a tag team I need you to be a part of. And it just kind of went from there. I showed up. I did what was asked of me. I performed well. I got there, and it was really, and to, kind of to pull the curtain back a little bit, it was to see how I would work on TV, how I would work with the cameras and with the fully mic'd up, referees and stuff of that nature. Was able to see if I could operate without kind of, losing my, indie mind, so to speak.
Right. And people don't understand that. Working TV is a total different animal. And Dustin has, now what wasn't as formatted as it is now, but I have talked to somebody that he's almost ruined my wrestling watching because he has 4 segments, 5-minute matches, and the 5-minute matches, almost every one of them means something. So you can end a feud with a 5 to 7 minute, or you can start a new feud. And then when I go watch, nothing, I'm a huge wrestling fan, so I watch WWE, I watch AEW, but by the 7th or 8th minute mark, I'm going, what the hell's going on here? Don't we have a finish? And I'm like, I've watched 100 and I'm 160 blah, and we're that far down, and I'm just like, but to work, and I was talking to Big Nasty Phil the other day because he had worked a match, and I reached out to him. I said, "You did good, blah blah blah," and I said, "Are you used to those 5-minute TV matches? And when they give you 5 minutes, number one, you still need to do psychology."
Right.
So you still need to follow the format. You still got to know when to go home. You got to know all of those things. Different than working a house show when Dustin says, "Give me 12 minutes." If you go 10, you're okay. If you go 17, 18, you're still okay. But you're not on television when he says, "Give me 5 minutes."
It definitely, like, I thought before Memphis Wrestling, I thought I had a good handle on timekeeping. Like you learn how long it takes you to get to the ring. Then when the bell rings, what you've done in X amount of time.
I'm going to stop you right there. And Dustin mentioned it. I'm going to stop you 1 second. And so that people listening to this will understand. You said, how long does it take you to get to the ring? As soon as you start your feet toward the ring, that's the start of the match for television.
Yes.
That's different than it is at a house show. The end is when you're walking out. They can cut the walking out. They can cut the entrance to help you. But that's, they can cut the match if they have to. And I know they've done that a couple of times. But we don't. As a fan, you don't realize that time starts as soon as you start walking toward that ring. So go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, you're absolutely fine. And to kind of pull the curtain back, the match itself starts the second I come out of that curtain.
Yep.
I'm already working, so to speak, air quotations. I'm working when I first walk out of that curtain. Everything down to the slightest curl of my beard or mustache. You know what I'm saying? and I've actually started utilizing that on a lot of house shows that I do outside of Memphis. And they tell me how long I've got, and I ask them, is that bell to bell? Is that curtain to curtain? What is it? Let me know, because what I'll do is I'll utilize all the time you've given me. And I think it's helped me grow. But yeah, it was just getting to that point where I figured out how long it takes me to get to the ring. Then I figure out if the refs already checked the heel or the face when I get to the ring, I get checked. Bell, match starts, and then you have and several years ago I was started, not several, but probably about 7 years ago, I started really training people, and I broke down the 15-minute indie match, and I broke it down to the point to where in a 15-minute indie match, you're really only wrestling for 7 minutes.
Yes. And it's just, and it's so funny.
It blew these young kids' mind, just like it blew mine when I stumbled on it.
Yeah. You have to. You have to get, like I said, in a 5-minute match, you still need to get the shine, the heat spot, the comebacks, the hot tag, whatever. You still need to get all of that. Yeah.
Bones of professional wrestling have to be there. And, the psychology and the stuff like that, the crowd interaction, camera angles and stuff, that's the muscles in the skin, to form a whole figure. So, you have to be careful to craft it just right.
All right, I want to talk real quick, and then I'll let you get out of here. We'll do a quick Patreon. You went from just Bruce. We did Bulletproof Bruce and Kayfabe, but we also did something called Warwolf. I remember seeing you in that gimmick and thinking, wait, that's Bruce. And they did not say a word about that being you or anything.
I don't know how much behind the scenes we can go. But it was, I saw a lot of the analytics, behind the scenes stuff. I was given an opportunity to see that stuff, and there were people that talked to me that day that had no clue that I was the werewolf. and
does
like
it
there were
take?
people in the do what?
Go ahead. Yeah. What does it take for a guy? And I'm going to say, I've talked to some people about you, and before we came on, just to get a feel, and all is said, and this is not in a bad way, and for some reason, some people take this in a bad way, but Bruce is a good guy. He's a team player. He's a good hand. He does what he's told. What makes that? How do you get in that spot? Because there's not a lot of guys. There is a lot of guys that work that do exactly what you do, and they don't say, give me the belt." But where did you get that mentality? Was it just being around the business for a while?
Um, I would say that just being around for a little bit now, and I would say who I hung out with early on. Dave would always. I used to travel, used to do some shows with Freezer Thompson, and Dave would tell me, and I got to watch. Freezer Thompson. He was one of the best jobbers around, and I don't like a lot of guys look at that word as a curse word or a slur. Being a jobber means you have a job. You know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah, it's
I don't really consider myself a jobber.
no, I don't either. No, you're part of the story. There's
Right.
a reason,
What
and I see a lot of heat for people for. Let me give you an example. L.A. Hustlers, who are part. Memphis Wrestling does something that AEW doesn't even do, but you have the main stories at the front. You have all of this stuff going on in the back, and then you sort of kind of graduate where you're in the main story. You're with the main guys. You're doing a program with the Gun Show, top guy in Memphis Wrestling. Who else could you be working with? That's one. But you also got this whole, Brother Bruce thing going on in the background that's going to be going on no matter whether you're in the top, in the middle, around. And that's what makes Memphis. But I hear people criticize. They're not putting you over. They're giving you effing TV time.
And that's one thing that I said. I learned early, like just like how hands get cleaned, one hand washes the other.
Right.
You do business to do business, and it is true that a closed mouth doesn't get fed, or a squeaky hinge, gets oil, so to speak. But, one thing that I've realized, and one thing that I learned, in fact, this past weekend, I did a Gabe Sapolsky seminar, make your boss happy and you never have to worry.
It is one of those things. Dustin has a saying that, and you probably heard him say it, especially with people who get frustrated and leave Memphis Wrestling. He will say they just couldn't wait around.
Right.
We had all this planned. They just couldn't wait. That's not, who's the guy? Jay Smooth. He is so freaking entertaining.
Oh yeah, I remember.
I don't know if he's won anything. We talk about jobbers. I don't want to call him a jobber. In the back of the day was somebody that never got a move in. Boom, boom, boom. Right. The match was over. By the way, that's inside terminology there with boom, boom, boom. That means everybody knows I've been in the business if I say that. But really, Jay is so entertaining. And so you love watching him when he comes out. You didn't the first couple of times he came out. He didn't have any personality, but he just slowly he's waiting. Right. He's waiting on that one time that he could get that one win that will pop. We had something recently happen with Denzel Rollins. By the way, you and Denzel had a hell of a match on TV.
Oh my gosh! I had.
So good. He's so good.
I loved that match.
Yeah.
One of my best matches, I think.
But he waited. He waited, and you did wait too. You just did what you were told, and I look at that, and it's I don't know. I think part of it is the smaller promotions that mess that up. To me, I may be totally wrong, but I think the smaller promotions were Bruce. Me and you, and I'm not talking about any specific promotion, But me and you, BT and Bruce, we could find a place to work this weekend as a tag team. Me and you could. And
Mhm.
if I demanded hard enough, they may put the damn tag team belts on us.
Oh, for sure, for sure.
And that's not the way you're supposed. And it's a good thing to be in a learning place like Memphis Wrestling. You still get taught things, and I been around the business forever. I still get taught things because number one, it's television, and number two, I have sat back and kept my mouth shut and turned my podcast into, instead of BT being an asshole, he's just providing content and saying, okay, here's your hits. Here's what I really like, blah, blah, blah. I want to ask you 3 people you worked. They're what I call superstars in the wrestling. They've done a lot. And tell me your experience with them, and then we'll go to Patreon. James Storm. You worked James Storm recently. How was it working James?
Consummate professional. I do this weird thing where, because I work a lot of indie shows, and I call them indie because there's no TV,
Right.
Where a guy will throw a move or do something and he'll miss you by a mile. Probably after about 8 years, I stopped selling those. It may make me look like an ass sometimes, but you can't sell something that didn't hit you, because then that makes you look foolish. So I lean in. So just a little conversation I had with him. Of course, we went over the finish and everything, and I told him, I said, look, I lean in to super kicks, and he said, well, don't. And I'm like, look, I'll do my best not to, but it'll probably happen. And then sure enough, I got the footage back. Well, the finish happened, and I leaned in, and we get back to the back, and he gives me a big hug, and he's like, dude, how's your face? He's like, as soon as my boot wrapped around your face, all I could think of was, damn, kid leaned in.
Yep.
And
I was always trained, bump when you feel it.
Right.
With a super kick, I don't know if you know Chris Champion. Do you know that name? Okay, so Chris Champion, I was in a battle royal with him. Chris comes over to me and he says, hey, I tell you what, you're going to be the last person that goes over the top rope, and I'm going to win it, but I'm going to super kick you. So during the whole night, that battle royal at the end of the show, which I fucking hated, but all the guys ribbed me the whole night. Man, he kicks the shit out of you. Man, he's going to kick the shit out of you. So we got ready to do the move, and Chris leans down and he says, when you feel it, bump. And it was so smooth. I mean, it was it was just like what I just did to my head with my hand. But it is one of those things where, and it's not bad, but those guys, the James Storms, are not used to bad habits. You get bad habits from working bad people. And I hate to say that, but
no, look, you gotta call it what it is. Like, honestly, I'm of a mind, and I was luckily I was polished up by a guy who told me, if you suck, I'm gonna tell you suck.
Right, you got to, yeah.
The only way you're gonna get better is if I tell you suck.
Dude, Bruce, you don't know how many dressing rooms I've been in where a young guy will say, I tell you what, BT, I need you to watch my match. Tell me what I did wrong. He comes through the curtain after the match. I go, look, if I was you, I wouldn't do this because blah, blah. Did you notice you didn't grab the leg during the pin? I don't want the announcers talking about it, but I want you to have the thought that you want to pin this guy. Also, there's something else that bothers me is for guys that are getting pinned, they pull their legs up in the air. Some of the big pros on TV do that, and that drives me crazy.
I caught myself, and I'm going to tell you, I caught myself probably 2.5 weeks ago or 2 weeks ago at a show. I started to do it, and then I sold it like a light kick out.
Yeah, there you go. But I just two of my things. What is it? Watching there, Marty Skull when he was coming up. He was in ROH. You could see him watching the other guys doing the moves. It's just little habits that you get. All right, let's Chris Masters, how was it? You did the Master Lock with him. How was he?
He was, again, consummate professional, really super cool guy, down to earth. I still tell people to this day that me and Bobby Lashley are the only two guys to ever beat the Master Lock Challenge.
Love it.
It doesn't matter how I did it. It was done.
Still got out. Yep.
Still got out of it.
How about you? To me, this is kind of like one of your. To me, a cherry on top kind of thing with your career. It would be for me anyway. You worked Gangrel as Warwolf on TV. How was Gangrel? I've heard only good things about this guy.
Really cool guy. Definite product of the Attitude Era. The guy can go at his age. We were told we had 6 minutes. We ended up going 16, I think. I could tell a lot of our match got cut when it aired. I've actually asked Terrence if he could find the original footage of that. I would love to have just the raw footage of that match.
I could just imagine somebody old school like Gangrel and somebody telling him, "Hey, some of the guys follow the rules, but some of them."
What it was we were the main event of the Halloween show.
Yeah,
and he had to catch a flight shortly after. His gear didn't even get to the show. He got to the show, and then 2 hours later, his gear showed up.
Oh, shit, yeah.
So as he's getting dressed, he's calling this match. He says, okay, we'll do this. If we have this much time, we'll do this. And it was a different match if we have this much time. And then we'll do this if we have this much time. And
I would have stopped him and said, just call in the ring. Please just call in the ring.
I had to tell him. Obviously the nerves were there.
And man, mine would have been too.
A lot of people don't realize this, and it's kind of I'm paying homage to Gangrel. As the Warwolf, I am a werewolf Gangrel.
Oh wow! Awesome,
I actually got approached by a promoter on the other side of the state that wants me to do a brood type gimmick. But me be the preacher from Silver Bullet.
Right. Yeah.
And I dress like Brother Bruce, but when I wrestle, I'm a werewolf. And I told him, I'm like, I don't know, I don't want to step on Memphis's toes because they're the priority. So I don't think that I will be doing that,
All right, here we go. We're going to wrap you up. If you're not a Patreon member, please join the Patreon. It's right up there. Also, we have a phone number. Give us a call. Leave us a message. If you have any more questions to Bruce, we can reach out to him, record some questions for Question of the Week, Memphis Wrestling. Also, the email there, you can email them to us. Real quick, tell us how to reach you on social media. Tell them about I said podcasting is what I wrote down here, but it's more of a live stream that you guys do.
It really is. Yeah, it's more of a live stream. Now, I do Wrestling with ADHD and Bruce. I really blew through my guests, so I'm kind of in the process of reaching out and finding guys, just kind of pulling the lid off of the stigma of having ADHD and trying to help out with stuff that I've gone through in my day-to-days. Let's see. Socials.
I always like to tell people I have a touch of something. So that's kind of what I have. I'm medicated, so it helps out. But I have I guess I really, when I get obsessed with something like this, like the podcast that I do, I tell people I'm going to do 2 episodes a week. And as soon as I tell them that, then it's going to happen. And no matter if my leg's been cut off, but I get real obsessive, and I get not to the point to where I'm just nutty about it, because I can walk away from it. But like I said, I got a touch of something. So it's not ADHD, which I have to write down to say, but it is a touch of something. So.
Right. So let's see.
And you do. It's called Special Dummies Unit. You'll go live on your.
We have SDU. Our SDU podcast umbrella has some wrestling podcasts. We're about to do a conspiracy one. We do it's a variety show, really.
Just have fun. Y'all guys have fun. I watch y'all. Yeah, I watch y'all on Facebook. So this may be telling people your shoot name, or no, let's do this. Let's tell them to follow look on Facebook for, what is it? SDU Network? Is that
SDU Networks, yeah.
Yeah, let's look for that on Facebook. You can follow them right there, and all the podcasts are broadcast there. Real quick,
Right. You can find us all
everybody
there.
knows. Go ahead.
We stream there. We stream to YouTube. We're in the process of trying to get on Spotify, but it's still in the baby steps. So we're, kind of working through and seeing how that all works. Maybe we'll get with somebody who's done it for several years.
Yeah. I'm on Spotify. I'm
Right.
on everything, my brother. I'm on everything. So there we go. Everybody knows what I'm fixing to say. Same bad time, same bad channel on the best little wrestling podcast in the business. Be there. And as everyone knows, Bruce, you know this. I love my mama.